Crystal Tower Information Whiskey 21530 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Nancy 53 on Overtower, Roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Departure 71143, flying flag, runway 28 left, quick takeoff, left hand southbound first.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, have your flight.
What is going on, everyone? Jim here with the Flying Midwest podcast. So happy you're able to join us. On this episode, we're joined by AOPA's National CFI of the Year, Ambyr Peterson. She'll discuss with us the selection process, her philosophies on flight training, and so much more. And as always, news, information, and events from around the region, with some friendly hangar talk along the way. So strap in, and let's take off into this episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. Welcome everyone back to the Flying Midwest podcast. I'm Jim, joined by my co-host Trevor and Maddie. How you guys doing?
Hi, Jim.
Hi. Living life to the fullest.
A whole lot of not flying.
Why are you not
A lot
flying?
of working. Do you want the actual answer to that?
Oh, a whole lot of working, that's why. Well, and
A lot of working and a whole lot of being broke.
the struggle's real.
Yeah, I got to move to save up for.
Yep. And the last couple of days, at least in Minnesota, have been kind of garbage anyways. It's been really windy and bumpy as all get out. So probably didn't miss much. How are you, Trevor? What's going on?
Oh, racking my brain over performance charts and emergency procedures and a bunch of other stuff.
No rest for the C-130 engineer students.
Nope. And I learned it's not like I learned it, but it's become very, very apparent that C-130 flight engineers, all they do is they eat their own.
Oh,
So, yeah.
cool. So, Trevor, you did some flying last week, huh?
Yeah, Sunday, Father's Day. Did
So
a little bit of flying.
What'd you do?
I got checked out in a Cherokee 140.
I feel like you
And I
owned a
feel
Cherokee.
I did own a Cherokee, and I after flying this little 140, I missed my 180
Yeah,
because it had so much more power.
I'd be willing to bet.
But the airplane is actually pretty nice. It handled very well. I did 3 takeoffs and landings. The outfit that I rented from, it really inexpensive, $85 an hour for a Cherokee wet rate. I can't
85
get
an
over it.
hour.
85 an hour wet.
Did they?
Wait, what?
He said wet. You heard him. What are the fuel rates on that airport? Do you know?
6 something, 650.
Wow.
Yeesh.
So you essentially stole the flight time in that plane.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Well, so here's the thing with the 140. Now the company is owned by 2 brothers, and they do their own maintenance. They don't have any hangar fees right now because they got displaced due to airport maintenance. So they were able to bring down their prices pretty substantially and cut out a lot of the middleman. So basically, as long as, and I promised them, I said I'd take care of the airplane as if it was my own. The downside to it, and I think a lot of operators are starting to go that route, is I have to buy my own insurance.
Oh gosh, it's been a while since I bought my own insurance.
And thinking about it, I'm more in favor of it because I know if something happens, I know exactly what the insurance policy is.
Plus,
So I'm
school
kind of in favor of it.
most school policies only cover the school and the plane, not you. So it's good that you have rental insurance.
I mean,
It's not that expensive either. I think it's less than $200 for if you get like a low plan.
I found my way into an airplane as well a week and a half ago or so. Went up and did some more commercial maneuvers. It's been a while, so went up with my instructor, trying to start working on my commercial rating again, and turns out I remember how to do some maneuvers. So
How'd it feel?
good. It was good to knock some of the rust off again and build a little bit of confidence. Like, oh yeah, you remember what you're doing. So didn't get to do all of them. Like I really want to get into doing some power off 180s again because it's been a while on those. But we did like some chandelles and lazy eights and some of the steep spirals, and those all felt fairly good. I still hate eights on pylons with a passion, but
You will always hate them. They are not
I
fun.
keep hearing that. I feel like there's been about once that I've been able to do them and go, oh, that felt really good. Every other time has been like, oh, I feel like I'm just chasing it. So
I mean, here's a tip. Get a little farther out from your points so you have a shallower bank, and so you have it'll take you longer, or it'll take longer for the point to change, so you don't feel like you're chasing it as much. Plus, in the maneuver, if you get the correct points with the wind, you are going to descend and ascend. Then you get back to your altitude, then you're going to descend and ascend again.
Mhm.
It's as long as you'll get the hang of it, it won't be your favorite maneuver, most likely.
I can't imagine it ever will be.
No.
I'm just not a huge fan. But I feel like based on the conversations I've had, I'm probably in decent company.
Yeah.
You are in decent company.
No one likes that maneuver.
Every
so I can dig it.
DP wants to see it, probably because everybody hates it. Same with lazy eights. I have to do those both for my interview next week. Yay!
Well, let's see if we can get you up and we'll practice some. I'll look at my
That
schedule.
would be very
And
cool.
we'll see what we can sort out here in the next handful of days. So
Sweet.
there you go. So should we talk about what's coming up on this episode?
I absolutely think so.
Okay, I guess I'll talk about it. We have AOPA's National CFI of the Year, Ambyr Peterson, who is a local flight instructor in Minnesota, as well as works for one of the regionals. So really fun conversation that we had with her. So we'll bring that to you after we cover some news and events. Without further ado, some news for you.
And bigger and more important news.
The news.
Hey guys,
Hey, Trevor.
Hey, Trevor.
do you remember the aircraft that was stuck in Fargo since February?
I don't, but I feel like you're going to tell me about it.
Well, apparently Eastern Airlines have forgotten all about it too.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Well played.
Yeah.
There's an aircraft, the 767, that had some engine trouble during takeoff from Fargo's Hector International Airport. So the airlines basically forgot it was there. It arrived back on February 2nd and was waiting a new engine. One of the interviewees for the form said, I forgot it was here until you called, but have to have it here for a long period of time. It's unusual. Hopefully it'll be moved in the very near future. Kind of sounds kind of sketch, if you ask me, but no skin off Eastern's back, because Hector doesn't have any overnight parking, so there's no fees associated with keeping the aircraft there, provided that there's access to maintenance crews, selling fuel, aviation services, things like that. Yeah, all joking aside, it's not the brightest idea to keep an aircraft just hanging out at the airport where you make money is flying.
Oh, you don't
Eastern,
say.
Yeah, right. Eastern Airlines was one of those airlines that went belly up back in the early 90s, then reemerged like a phoenix, probably about 5 to 7 years ago. And they were mostly going to be charter. Yeah, they went through restructuring. They now have 12 aircraft, all variety of 767s.
So how many
Kinda
planes do they
sad.
have again now? You said 12?
Yeah.
Did they know where most of them are then? Or
I hope so.
I
All
hope
right.
so.
All
That was
right.
pretty
Well,
good.
I'd assume at some point they'd be like, I think we're missing a couple. We can't make these flights.
You guys remember what happened to this airplane? No. I bet somebody got fired for that.
Oh, at least one person got fired for that.
What do you mean you don't know where it is?
Well,
You lost it?
it could be worse.
Oh, could it?
It could be like Puerto Rico Air National Guard. Apparently they lost an F-16 on ocean ditching, and nobody found it until like 2 years, or nobody had noticed it till like 2 years later. It was never reported.
No. That's so funny.
So when they went to do an inspection on the base, like, where's this tail number? Oh yeah, that crashed like 2 years ago.
Moving right along to bigger and more important news.
Moving more important news, we're going to talk about some government stuff. Just kidding. It's not going to be that boring, but we are going to talk about some tax stuff.
Wake me up when this is
Super
over.
fun. Yep, no problem. All right, going down to Topeka, Kansas. The governor of Kansas, Laura Kelly, joined legislators and aviation industry leaders at the National Center for Aviation Training. This was in June, in Wichita, and she signed a bipartisan House bill labeled 2239. And this essentially creates tax credits for the aviation aerospace industry. So what this is going to do, it creates a tax credit for aviation employees and employers. And this is for this next tax year. Basically, what this bill is trying to do is encourage more in and out of state workers to join the Kansas aerospace industry. So you get this non-refundable tax credit for taxpayers who become qualified aviation employees. And there's some fun tax stuff with that. A lot of it's tax credits, and it also incentivizes employers to offer tuition reimbursement for employees who further their education in a STEM field. So that's pretty cool. So that might do well for somebody like me who plans to go to a place like Textron or whatever, get some nice tax credits. Governor Kelly seems to be putting a lot of emphasis on the aviation industry in Kansas, which is great because I feel like Wichita has since gone kind of by the wayside as far as big aviation places, even though there are a lot of aviation industries based out of there. So it's pretty cool because Kansas is actually home to leaders like Spirit, Bombardier, and Textron. So we definitely want to keep them going and bring more people into the aviation industry. So I think this will be a great lead-in for that. You can wake up now.
Continuing on with laws and legislation and things like that.
I thought I could wake up. Let me know when you're done.
When you airplane owners are looking to get some cheap labor is not a great thing to say. Tax discounted labor, go to Iowa. Iowa approves a sale of tax exemption for aircraft parts and labor. So this is actually kind of a cool thing. Governor Kim Reynolds on June 14th ensures a robust aviation economy for the Hawkeye state. And this begins with a sales tax friendly initiative for aviation maintenance jobs for equipment and things of that nature. AOPA has actually been a very big advocate for this as well. AOPA and the Iowa Public Airports Association has been pushing for this tax exemption since 2017, along with many other members who are engaged with their local senators and representatives. The bill received significant support from Representative Steve Bradley, an AOPA member and a general aviation advocate. This is actually kind of a cool thing because as anybody that's been in and around aviation knows that aviation is very expensive, especially when we're talking about, parts, equipment, TSO products, PMA products, things that are certified versus non-certified. It gets to be very expensive. So being able to take out a little bit of this bite is actually, I think it's a big deal. It's a step in the right direction, trying to make aviation just that much more affordable.
That's a step in a totally different direction. That's actually good. I'm a fan.
I'll buy it. Jim, what about you?
Maddie approves. I approve. You approve. Approved.
It has been
Motion
signed and stamped, approved by the Flying Midwest podcast.
That's really all you need to make it a law. I think I saw that on a Schoolhouse Rock once.
The bill on the Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
So the 45th annual ARIES Classic is currently taking place right this second. Actually, it spans over 4 days. So it started yesterday, and they will be flying for 2 more days after today. So from the 21st to the 24th. This race is for teams of up to 3 female pilots, and they will be traversing the, let's say, southeastern United States. They start in Lakeland, Florida, and make 9 stops, I believe. And they have a set route, and they each have handicaps of their own, and it will end in Indiana. So these ladies, a lot of them have been racing for many years. Some, it's their first time. There are a lot of school teams this time around. Liberty University has 2. I think Kansas State also has a couple as well. I have a friend who's actually participating in this race. Sarah, if you're listening, keep going seriously fast.
Spelled Cirrus.
Seriously fast. They're flying a Cirrus.
I should hope so. It would make as much sense if you're flying a Piper.
It would be really funny if they were. But yeah, so we're wishing these ladies blue skies and tailwinds on their trip. So it is a 4-day, 2,549 mile race. So these ladies are actually in competition to beat themselves. They go do a handicap flight and take times, and they try to beat their own time. This is so there's not any pressure to fly through the night or do anything dangerous.
So those in the listening community, I don't know how much you guys have traveled via airlines. You guys have probably listened to the news, talked about it on the book face and all that sort of stuff. Airlines are starting to adjust for the pilot shortage, and American Airlines has decided they're gonna stop flying to 4 different airports, 2 of which in New York, 1 of them in Iowa, and then the other in Ohio, beginning September 7th. The pilot shortage again has started this. So Dubuque in Iowa, Dubuque Regional, we have Eugene Kranz Toledo Express Airport in Ohio, which do pertain to our listening area. American Airlines has decided to cancel those routes. It was mostly decided to cancel out of Chicago O'Hare because of the hub being there, but it's due to the shortage of regional pilots. Now, this is actually kind of interesting because within the past 2 weeks or so, American Airlines and the regionals, American has actually been starting to supply huge sums of money to bring new pilots in. Did you guys hear about this?
You go on.
Bringing up pay at least 50% for first officers to regionals.
Ooh.
So $81,000 a year before per diem and all that stuff. You're getting $90, I think like $90 per hour for your guarantee, or $75 a month guarantee. I think they're trying to get pilots from the other big ones, Delta and United. I think it's a smart move. I don't know how sustainable that is long term, but it's a 2-year contract that ALPA has gotten and signed with American Airlines regionals. Basically, from what I understand, American Airlines is infusing this money into their wholly owned subsidiaries to try to bring those pilots in to try to alleviate a lot of those shortages. But there's more to come on that. Hopefully, we don't see any more decreases in service, because let's face it, we need to get places, and driving just is boring.
Yeah, we'll see where this goes. How about some events, Jimothy?
Let's talk about some events. Starting out in the state of Michigan, the Battle Creek Field of Flight Air Show and Balloon Festival of 2022. Dates for that are going to be June 30th through July 4th. It's going to take place in Battle Creek, Michigan. It is one of the biggest festivals of its kind in the country. It features over 30 hot air balloons, a lot of different various family-friendly entertainment, as well as some top performers such as the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, the Air Force Heritage Flight. They also have some events that will take place after dark with about 20 glowing hot air balloons. More information on that event will be in the show notes. Our next event, the Confederate Air Force Air Power History Tour, will be visiting Chicago, Illinois at Lewis University Airport July 13th through the 17th. They'll feature things like the B-29 Superfortress Fifi, as well as the B-24 Liberator Diamond Lil, and P-51's T-6 Texans, and so much more. They'll also have a number of ride opportunities that you'll be able to try to book, and those events will typically go 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the days of the event. Up next is SimVenture by Pilot Edge. SimVenture 2022 is a unique opportunity to use your flight simulator program to fly into a simulated Oshkosh environment. This is the 3rd year in a row that they've conducted this, and it includes actual Oshkosh air traffic controllers. It can be a good experience if you're not able to go to Oshkosh yourself, or if you want some practice before the big event. In fact, we will be talking to the folks from Pilot Edge on one of our upcoming episodes, so they can give you a little bit more information about SimVenture and how they came up with that whole thing.
Aren't we part of SimVenture?
It's funny you should mention that. You know that one time we did that whole logo thing? They have it. And we're going to be on some sort of simulated AirVenture tent. So fly into SimVenture and check us out at the Flying Midwest Podcast booth at SimVenture. We will not be at AirVenture in the capacity that you'll see here. So don't go looking for a Flying Midwest Podcast, like big booth experience. It's just not going to be a thing.
Sad.
It is sad. Maybe next year's AirVenture will actually invite us.
I think, don't we have to pay to get in there?
Let's not get caught up in technicalities. Up next, Sheboygan Gift Week 2022, which is the Girls in Flight Training. That's going to occur August 8th through August 15th. It's the 3rd annual Gift Week at Sheboygan. So this event is primarily geared towards women for an immersive flight training experience. This will typically last Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. Registration fees are $250 plus materials, and they'll be offering training for private instrument, commercial, CFI, and CFII. Registration information will be in the show notes. So with our news and events out of the way, it's time for our featured guest of this episode.
Yay!
Woohoo!
So I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited to welcome AOPA's National CFI of the Year, Ambyr Peterson. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Amber.
Hi guys.
Kind of a big deal.
A lot of people have told me that you're kind of a big deal now. And I'm like, really? No, thank you. I didn't really change anything, but thank you.
Yeah. So you're in that school of thought of, well, I'm still just me, and I just have this label now, I guess.
Yeah, it was actually weird. Like I went to the Women in Aviation convention this year and people recognized me, which was bizarre. I'm like, oh,
sure.
Hi. Yes. Yeah. I'd be happy to give you some advice, like in a good way. So it was kind of neat, actually. It was humbling in a way too, because I worked, as most folks know, getting your CFI, II, and then being serious and good about it, it takes a lot of work. So it was nice to know that I'd made some impact. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Really cool.
So we're excited to have you here. We're going to start out with a little bit of fun, though, just to break the ice, get you comfortable, help us get comfortable, and stop stumbling all over our words like we typically do when we start. So we will start by offering you a series of 5 questions here. Just, there's no pressure, there's no right or wrong answer. First question.
Pass.
Oh, okay, good. Any other ground rules I should know about?
We haven't quite set up a timer system yet, so it's an honor system. If you think that your answer is not coming quick enough, maybe it's not. But it's supposed to be like a quick response thing. But we'll see how you do. Okay. So first question is favorite aviation movie.
Ooh, okay. It is one with Tom Cruise in it, and it's American. It's when they're running drugs in South America.
Oh, yeah. American Made.
American Made.
Yeah.
Yep. That just got some classic good airplane stuff in it. It's good stuff. Yep.
I mean, it's Tom Cruise in another airplane. I know that Trevor might have an issue with that, but
So to be fair,
I enjoy that one.
To be fair,
I don't like Tom Cruise. Okay, I'm just
neither do I. But that was a good movie.
I think he's kind of a d-bag, but that's just me. I did watch American Made because I was an Aerostar, right? That's an Aerostar, right?
You just really love Aerostars.
Yeah, those things are fast.
Your love for Aerostars have trumped your hatred for Tom Cruise.
That's the hard line right there.
And drug running and all that sort of fun, CIA stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
It was good. Yeah.
It was a good movie. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Question number 2. Favorite aircraft that you've flown?
Okay, so this is going to sound extremely cheesy, but honestly, I love the 152. Like, it's just got a little place in my heart. Just give me a 6-pack and a carbureted engine, and it's just a freaking airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. If it's IFR capable, even better. But just give me a freaking airplane. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Question number 3. Of Midwest airports, favorite FBO?
The one in Traverse City, Michigan. Couldn't tell you the name of it, but there's a GA FBO that it's nice, and then you can get food delivered, and it's just the right amount of comfy. Don't know the name of it. Might be a signature for all I know, but yeah, it's a good one. Traverse
City, Michigan, you said.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm gonna have to look that up. Question 4. Favorite Midwest podcast? No. Question 4. Least favorite aircraft that you've flown?
Oh, that is a good question. Thinking. So I don't know if there's like a model per se. I don't think there is. I'm gonna think through that a little bit because I like flying. What I don't like is when you're like, the maintenance is almost sketch. So it's like that bad vibe aircraft. That's just like they say it's airworthy. It's not really wrong, but you're like, you just get the bad vibe. So that's the only time I would say I haven't enjoyed flying, where you're just waiting for the wing to fall off or something like that,
I've flown one of those.
Yeah, I think we all have, and you're like, yeah, looking back, should I have done that? Yep.
All right, last question we have for you. Anyone in aviation history dead or alive, who would you want to meet and have a conversation with?
Oh, that is a great question. And I'm just going to make like the general statement of anybody that ran bombing missions in World War II. Like that just seems absolutely like fascinating. Like the navigators that had to figure out when to drop the bombs based on like E6B data and stuff. Like how did that actually work is my answer on that one. Yeah.
I love that answer. That's awesome.
Great answer.
It's good stuff. One of my students, like in where that answer came from, she, we're doing old school slide rule E6B stuff. And she's like, can I bring in my grandpa? So I'm like, probably, sure. And she brings it in, and it's this old leather case. And her grandpa was a navigator in World War II. And like, it literally had like notes in it that you could tell he used to like actively do a mission and stuff. And it was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I would have liked to be able to like talk to him about what were you doing and how did you do it, right? Would have been super cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Well, thanks for playing along with our little questions and warm up a little bit. Helps us warm up too. So
yeah, good questions.
So you're CFI, double I, all that stuff. How do you get into instructing?
I am your typical, how do you build hours for 121? That's why I got my CFI. And I honestly didn't think I would like it. And it turned out it's my passion and I love it. So that is how I got into being a CFI. And it's my second career. I got my private when I was 17, like way background, got my private when I was 17. Really couldn't afford to fly. By the time I was 20, didn't fly anymore, and then took 20 years off and started flying again as a career change. And it was really the 121 schedule that attracted me, and lack of people calling me 24/7. So it was really that motivation. And then lo and behold, you found what you're meant to do.
I think that's pretty cool because I'm looking at that route as well. To me, being an instructor and being a competent instructor, I mean, that is just awesome. If you get to that point where you're such a good instructor, where you're changing people's lives and getting people to realize their passions, I mean, that's just a whole new calling.
It is. And I mean, I think probably every instructor like changes lives, because the individuals that want to fly, the individuals that come in for flight training are there for two reasons. One, they want to do it for a career, or two, they've wanted to do it since they were a little boy or girl. I mean, that's who comes in.
Absolutely.
So either scenario, you are going to change their life. It's how you change it and the positive or the negatives that you change their lives. That's really what a good CFI is, or part of being a good CFI. Obviously, there's like the actual skill set and like, knowing what the regs are and that kind of stuff. But like making sure it's a positive experience, their money's well spent, and they're happy. And that's what your job really is.
So after like a 20-year break in flying, what brought you back into aviation?
2-minute story is had a group of friends. One of our friends is an actor in Sioux Falls, and he was in a play. And so we went there for opening night. And there's probably 8 or 10 of us that road tripped out to Sioux Falls. Go see the play. He has an after party at his house. And I start chit-chatting with a pilot, turns out, in the kitchen of his house at this after party. And we talked for like till 2 a.m, like just airplanes. And I'd always had the bug. I traveled for work. I wanted to turn left into the cockpit. I didn't. I turned right. And I was like, I literally called my boyfriend on the way home the next day. And I'm like, so what do you think of me making a career change? And I'm in the backseat of my car. Like my 2 friends up front were like, what? And I got in a 152 2 days later and just never got out. So that's it. Sometimes you just have to talk to the right person, and just like, okay, I'm ready and I can actually afford to do this at this stage in my life. Because there was a couple of times I had the opportunity, but it was like, I didn't have 40 grand, and I was in a place where I could do it. So it was right place, right time, and it all came together really well. Yeah.
Cool.
So what have you discovered to be your favorite part of teaching? This could be like private pilot ground or like for solos or whatever? What has been like overall your favorite part?
So overall favorite part, probably first solos, definitely like that first excitement level, coming back from the cross country and them like so freaking excited because they just went to St. Cloud and back and they landed. It was the best thing ever. And, yeah. And like being excited with them. Because it really, that was just this momentous thing that honestly, they're probably going to remember the rest of their lives, right? And it might be passing their check ride, but just being part of that excitement and validated it for them. Because when they go home to their husband or wife, they're going to be like, good job, you flew today. So like you're almost that person that can validate that excitement that I know I have for GA and like I had for flying and I still have for flying. Like every time I take off, like if I take a 2-week vacation and I take off and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm flying and oh, PS, I get paid for this? What? It's like just the most amazing thing, you know? So like remembering where they were and where they are.
That's really awesome.
Thank you.
So as you came up through the different ratings, what kind of challenges did you face as you made your way to becoming a CFI, if any?
Oh, I did. When you don't fly for 20 years, you don't know how to land anymore.
Yeah.
So that actually
sometimes I feel like 20 minutes is what will do that.
Yeah. That was actually really frustrating to me. Like I nearly quit a few times. Because, which makes sense, is I'm like, okay, let me start working on my instruments because I just had my private at that point. And so like we'd go shoot a few approaches and then come in and do 1 or 2 landings and they were absolutely like just ugly bad, right? And so that was really discouraging. I literally did almost quit and needed to find some different tools for me to relearn how to land, which I did. And so I can land, which is good. And then I was also working professional. So, and I see this a lot of times with people like in their 30s or 40s that are making this career change, trying to balance work, life, family, and it's impossible. How do you do all that? I will admit that by the time I started working, I remember on a Thanksgiving, I literally went and took like a 3-hour nap, like at 4 o'clock, like worst time. Cause I'm like, I was so fatigued. My ride was like in 5 days. And it was like, I can't even stare at people across the table right now. So like learning that was really, really difficult. And finally, when I was working on my commercial, I had to go halftime with my job. Like that is what I needed to do or it wouldn't have happened. Learning later in life really is a lot harder. So that was difficult. And then I'm one of those people too, that I don't, what it at all. So I take it very seriously that if I go in for my commercial ride, I'm not just going to read the gouge and know I'll pass. It's like I actually want to be a proficient commercial pilot as well. So I put that on myself as well.
Thank you.
So there you go on that. But yeah, I definitely had challenges. I busted on my power off 180 back in the day that you still needed to do it in a complex. It was almost funny when I like let people know that I busted. It was like I became this card carrying member of who busted their commercial on the power off 180. There's like a little secret club that you will be admitted to when you do that. The joining though, or the rates of membership are going down, new members, because it's no longer a complex requirement, but it still very much is a club. But it was like I did absolutely everything wrong on that thing. And then for sure just the challenges with learning, doing my CFI ground like nearly killed me, but I made it. So there you go. And almost everybody has those stories. Like it's just getting ready for a CFI ride is just like, thankfully you don't have to do a reoccurring CFI ride, or there'd be like 5 CFIs in the country because nobody wants to take that ride ever again, right? So yeah.
It's fascinating that you bring up being able to digest that information. I go on a lot of Facebook forums and sometimes I pick a lot of fights, as
yes, you do.
Jim knows.
Sometimes.
But there's a student pilot forum on Bookface, and they everybody's posting their, their written exam results and stuff like that. It's like, oh, 98. Hey, did Shepherd Air, 95. Some of these pilots I question, did they read the gouge? Did they Shepherd Air it? Do they really understand the stuff? Then you get, I had read a post earlier this past week, and 72 for written. And it's like, I look back at my writtens. I don't think I scored above 80 on any of my writtens, because I don't take tests very well. That's just who I am. But when it comes to like the oral and whatnot, I can talk my way through anything.
So in all your teaching, of all these weird situations, all the weird like things students have done, like crazy, like trying to kill you, what has been either the weirdest or the most difficult to correct?
Ooh.
Maybe both. I kind of want
Okay. Yeah. The only times I feel like a student has really tried to kill me or my life has been in danger is when I'm in IMC, to be honest on that. And I will all day, every day take students into IMC. They should be in IMC before they're given their ticket, 100%. But that is the only time where your life is very, very much in their hands if you're not very careful. Full scale deflection, thank goodness I fly in the Midwest. There really isn't much to hit, right? And needing to take controls, they're freaked out. You're aiming the nose back to the line. You're entering in the GPS to get you to the middle of the runway or the airport, and you're talking to ATC in a non-autopilot aircraft when you've just seen them do something dumb, more than standard rate turns in a hold. 2 weeks ago, and like I knew he was going to do it, and I just blanked on it because he has autopilot. So you should not pull throttle before you start your descent, or you're going to slow way down, right? He did that, and instead of disconnecting autopilot, he chose to try to correct it, which you can't do in this aircraft. So it's like, I have to take controls, get back to where we are, blah, 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 blah. And he gets frustrated. And that's hard in that, yeah, we literally could have been in a life and death situation. And when I take controls, when you're only been in actual like that much, the good news is they learn a very healthy respect for how dangerous IMC can be. But you also don't, I swear it takes like 5 lessons back from the, oh my God, I was finally in the real thing and I effed that up bad, like could have died bad. And that's hard because you can't take that back. Normally when I take controls or like you're in VMC, you're able to massage in that it's like, obviously you want them to learn, but you don't want them to feel like they're really bad. But when you're an IMC, you got to do what you got to do. Right. And so that's hard. I think that's the only time that I've really felt like I was going to die. The other, I've got a million stories. I was in a Cirrus once, so high performance, rotated at a high speed for a general aviation aircraft, single engine. And we're going down the runway. And what's funny is like the lesson before we practiced aborts, and his door wasn't closed. I'm like, oh, great. What's she gonna do? Abort? Okay, let's do it. And he took his foot off the right rudder. And we literally, we're going 70 knots and we start like going off the runway. And I had to take controls, put in throttle. We're doing like a soft field takeoff over the lights of the runway, essentially, till we get up to a speed where we can rotate and go up. So that was a good lesson on the right foot. But yeah, I mean, we all have a million of them. I mean, once you get, I probably have 2,000 hours of dual given. Like, it's just, I can keep them coming, but it's like, these are the things that you just have to have your senses up. And I didn't feel like I was in a life and death situation at that point. It was I going to be talking to the feds, right? But you just got to be ready and realize that's part of the job, which like a lot of people are like, what? How can that, like I joke every day, somebody tried to kill me, right? But it kind of is that way, not on purpose. But that's what you do. You're teaching how to fly a machine that deserves a lot of respect. And that is part of your job as well. is teaching them that respect. And if you don't allow them to make mistakes, they're not going to learn the respect, in which case they might kill themselves later. And I'd feel really, really bad if that happened. Yeah.
Oh,
Very fair.
absolutely.
Given your qualifications and your award status, I should say, what do you think are the skills and traits, in your opinion, that makes a good CFI?
So a lot of my students and like CFI applicants that I've been with, they say, and I'm going to say a word you might need to bleep out, but I should put on my business card, I actually give a shit. And that makes all the difference in the world. Do you actually care about your students? Will you be there for them at 10 p.m. the day before their ride to answer a question, then tell them to go to bed? Are you texting them the day before to make sure expectations are, you guys are on the same page? These are the approaches that we're going to do. Maybe put a nugget in their ear. Hey, maybe you should look at NOTAMs on where we're going, right? So they've got the time to do that ahead of time and really truly care about where they are in their lives, both professionally, personally, and with flying. So a lot of CFIs don't do that. Unfortunately, a lot of them are there to sit in the right seat, period. So care about your students, understand what their needs are, think about what you needed or wish you had in your training. That's where a lot of my skill set came from. One of the things I do with my students is I use the phraseology, I'm firing you. And I will not let them do more than one certificate or rating with me, with the exception of if they want to get their CFI with me. Because if they fly with a different CFI on each certificate or rating, they're going to learn from that individual. They're going to take the best of each CFI they fly with and turn into this amazing hybrid of the 4 or 5 individuals that they've flown with over the course of their training. Versus like I've met CFIs where it's like, yeah, they did all 5 ratings, with the same individual. They're just mini me's. They've only got one perspective. They make some good decisions, but maybe they've got some bad decisions because that's what that individual did. So exposing yourself to as much as possible is really kind of the name of the game. And then care, be the best person that you can be, for sure.
I think what you just said is gold. Having different perspectives, because you're never going to have the same experiences, the same teaching styles, the same lingo inside the cockpit. You need to have various experiences, and having that is going to be one of those big things that I think will save a person's life.
Oh, I totally agree. We do have the right to interview, test, and fire our CFIs. Mm-hmm. So when I started flying again, I was mature enough in my life where I wasn't going to take anybody that was sitting in the right seat. I'm freaking paying you $50 to $100 an hour. I'm going to get somebody who knows what he or she is doing. Right. Mm-hmm. So I probably went through 10, 12 CFIs till I finally found the CFI I did my instrument with and okay, you actually know what you're freaking doing. Right. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't be paying you money to teach you how to fly at night. Right. But I see so many people that's just oh, I have to stay with Joe. Joe was assigned to me. It's no, freaking fire Joe. If Joe's sitting there texting while you're on final, yeah, Joe needs to be fired. Mm-hmm. And I truly do believe that, right? So shop around for your CFIs. And sadly, I don't know the exact number of the CFIs that are CFIs for 121, but I'm probably going to call it 80, 90% of them. And I bet you 75% of them are just sitting there. It's truly sad. And then going into our pilot shortage, this is who's training you. It's mm-hmm. so scary.
Can you talk to us about what the process was for whether it be the nomination and then ultimately be awarded the CFI of the year with AOPA?
Yeah, and I encourage everybody, AOPA annually, you could find it on their website. But they open it up and you can review your flight school and you can review your CFI. They can be done simultaneously or individually. And I strongly encourage everybody to do that good or bad, because the reason why is the flight schools and the CFIs actually get your feedback. And it's really, really interesting to see the comments, good and bad. Like, I'm not all 5 stars, right? On what people wrote down that they really liked and what they wrote down where there was room for improvement. Like, I learned a lot from that, as did all my peers that got reviews, so they feed all that to you. It's all anonymous. You can't tell who wrote it. But I would encourage everybody to, even if you're not like voting, wanting, your CFI to be the CFI of the year, to go in there, because we get good feedback, and any good flight school or CFI is going to take into account the good and bad and make appropriate changes or keep things the same, right?
So how did that progress in your case? And the feedback that they give you, AOPA, as well as progressing to those stages of
so
CFI
I
of the year level.
was like region. They didn't do it the year before last because of COVID, because a lot of people didn't fly, so it wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
So the year before that, I was one of the regionals. I think there's 8 people that came into the regionals. So what they do is you get an email, congratulations, your AOPA's regional CFI of the year. There's this list, and you're now in the running for national CFI of the year. So you literally get an email in the September timeline on that, which is super awesome, very recognized and whatnot. If you're a regional AOPA, the local rep will come out to your flight school and give you like this little plaque and shake your hand. And it's pretty cool, right? Because that is huge. There's 60 to 80 regional CFIs in the country, which is pretty cool. There's between 1,200 and 1,600 CFIs that are nominated. So that's really like an impressive feat as well.
Sure.
And then whether or not you are to the regional, all the CFIs, all the flight schools get an email in that same time range with what the reviews were. So you can review that and make appropriate changes. The flight school is at the time, like we kind of talked about, the good and bad that we got individually as well, which was nice kind of feedback. And then you get invited there's regional, there's district, I might have that confused, and then there's national. So I was one of the 6 finalists to the national level. So you get an email on that, and you get invited to the Redbird Convention, which is like a CFI convention that's held annually. It was down at the Sun and Fun venue, like down in Lakeville, Florida this year. So I got invited to that. I'd never been in this boat before, so I got the invite. I'm like, I'll try to make it. I said it nicer than that. And then in December, I got this email like, hey, can we send out a photo crew to take pictures of you? And I'm like, oh, this must be like what they do for all the finalists. Little did I know they just voted, and like I was the national. So they sent out a photo crew. Did some pictures up at Crystal on a 172 that were really nice. Actually, I looked very good. It was like 15 degrees and I had a sweater on, and I'm like, so freaking cold, right? But that's Minnesotan. We're good. We're fine. Big smile. And then, yes, I went down to the Redbird Convention, and it's pretty cool. Actually, they have a CFI of the year, and then they have a flight school of the year at national level. And they do it like Oscar style, where they come out with the envelope, and like you go in and you get your regional. So each person walks across the stage for that. So there was 6 or 8 of us that were like standing there waiting for the big Oscar envelope. And yeah, they pull out the envelope, and it was me. It was pretty cool. So yeah.
Awesome.
Were you kind of in shock when you got called up as the national?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like I'm chit-chatting with other CFIs, other individuals that were there for the presentations that were going on over the couple of days with the conference. And like, it didn't even cross my mind. It was like, I'm here to learn, to get educated on what's going on, get an award. Like, it was pretty cool that I was one of the top 6 in the country. And then, yeah, there's AOPA does a once a week video YouTube thing, and then a podcast. So I was on both of those, and it's almost funny like watching me, because you could tell I was just like, I I'm just answering questions hasn't really hit me yet. So it was pretty cool.
As a youthful CFI, as somebody who does it for fun in the sense of like, you obviously got your hours to go to 121 and you still taught. No matter how much you love teaching, I know it is a wearing job. What are some things that you do as, you know, in your personal life or in aviation that keep you from it wearing you too much?
Right.
To the point where you don't enjoy it.
Usually you don't make a ton of money. Usually your hours are all in the summer, or a lot of them are, right? So I made sure to take at least 6 days off a month, which actually really that was hard for me to do. I didn't do that up front. I got fatigued. I got worn out. No more than 3 students a day. And that may be still a 10-hour day, right? But like with that 4th student gets nothing. And every CFI that I've talked to that is honest says that 4th student gets nothing because you're worn out, you're tired, right? You're sitting there at that point. A lot of people do the 4th student because, you know, that makes it a 10-hour day and that's more money and that's more hours, right? So, and it's almost more like students, like flights. Because if you do 3 lessons of pattern, I'm as tired if I do 3-hour cross countries. It's really bizarre on that. It's like what your mental like focus and energy is on. Granted, I'm like in my early 40s, but still like the folks in their early 20s I talked to, like they were honest, like, yeah, that 4th student got nothing again tonight. And then they laugh. And that's hard. Like, it's just like, dude, why do you schedule yourself? Like, why are you doing that? Know what works with your students and yourself too. No more than a 2-hour ground session. They'll stop learning and you'll start like not teaching as well. Like, so that would be another thing.
What tips do you have for a new student to be successful in their transition into aviation?
Do your homework, be prepared. Most of us, and there are some people who are not in a financial situation. Some people will happily spend 30 grand on their private if they have the means to do so. But there's a lot of really good tools that are out there that you can self-study on your own. Make sure that you get a list from your CFI or another reputable individual on what you should and should not watch on YouTube. Never wiki anything, right? Like that was one of the first things I did, was just like make a list of these are the YouTube channels you can trust. Don't watch anything else because you can find everything you need on these like 9 or 10 and or books or handbooks.
Did you say Trevor Jacob?
He did.
Get out of here.
Know what to expect. Like, so I would recommend going with a flight school that has a syllabus, but realize like actually I would get to the point where I would hop around on the syllabus when I knew what I was doing, because it was like if the person nailed whatever and you don't need to practice it 3 lessons in a row, like practice what needs to be practiced. Or if the ceilings are 2,500 feet, then go frickin' do ground reference maneuvers, right? Like jump ahead. Like that's what I like about Part 61. I'm a big Part 61er because of that. Because lesson whatever says you should land doesn't mean that that's when you're going to be able to land, and it's okay. So make sure that you and your CFI are on the same page. If your CFI doesn't communicate with you the day before, reach out to him or her. If he or she does not respond, fire your CFI. And ask your CFI why he or she is there, why he or she wants to be a CFI. If they won't give you 5 to 10 minutes of interview time, you don't want them to be your CFI. If they're texting while you're taxiing, unless they're like, hey, I'm really, really sorry, like my plumber's coming over, it's a rarity, but you don't want them to be a CFI. You're paying them a lot of good money to honestly keep you alive and teach you how to stay alive.
On the flip side of that, what advice do you have for new CFIs like myself as far as like getting started? Because I mean, you were once a young CFI.
Once I had 5 hours of dual given. Yeah. Well, 2 things. Like 1, figure out like how you feel like you're going to be a good CFI, which like sounds like hard, but like, what's your niche? What do you enjoy? Do you want to focus? Do you only want to do instruments, or do you want to only primarily do instruments, right? what kind of students do you like? Do you like teaching the 17-year-old kids? Do you like teaching the 40-year-olds that are like making a transition? They're very different personalities, and maybe you're only going to jive like in general with certain individuals. So try not to match yourself with people you're not going to enjoy flying with, or maybe you don't teach well too. Like I fired myself from one student because I'm like, this person doesn't learn from me, right? And it's just, that's fine, right? Then come prepared. There's nothing more frustrating than the CFI not knowing how to do stuff, which you won't know how to do, right? But like, remember how to do a steep turn and what those teaching techniques are that your, CFI taught you when you're becoming a CFI, on what your, outside, inside is how I teach. So like, oh yeah, you kind of chair fly how you're going to teach, on the way to the airport. So you're going to be dead nuts on until teaching a steep turn, you could do like half asleep, whatever, because you can't, when you've got 5 hours, like you really don't know how to teach. So remember those teaching techniques. And then like, think about what it is that your student would want, what you would have wanted. Instruments are a big thing on what you can text the student the day before. Like it was really frustrating to me when I first started looking at a plate. I needed 15 minutes to like brief the darn thing, right? So if you tell the student when they walk in, these are the 3 approaches we're going to do today, like it's not fair to them, their money, your time, for them to like spend 45 minutes reading it. So give them the 3 approaches the day before so they can look at that at night. And then you can talk about the, oh, hey, did you notice there's the gotcha at whatever? Or, hey, do we remember what a VDP is? Versus like them truly like give them everything they can in advance. Think about where your CFIs failed you and don't do that. The other thing is how can you save your students money and or give them a good experience? So I put together a presentation, happy to shoot it over to you if you want.
Please, I would love that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can put it in the links, I can throw it on Google Drive. I did a FAA presentation on it a couple of times, but like the tips and tricks to save cost. So you're getting what's like some good ones. Oh, instrument stuff. Well, if you're getting your commercial, you got to do your cross countries, your 2-hour cross countries. So you do your 2-hour day, you shoot a couple of approaches on the way, you land, you go have dinner, and you do your 2-hour night on the way back while you're doing approaches. So it adds absolutely zero money to your net cost of getting your commercial. Yet I can't tell you the number of people that like save it for their commercial. So they are paying a CFI 4 extra hours for nothing. Because I'm telling you, when I'm in that position, I'm quizzing them on their oral because I'm sitting there, right? They know how to fly 2 hours, hopefully, by that point, right? So how can you help them save money or give a good experience? One of the things I do for private that is absolutely, I can't tell you the friendships, the camaraderie, the crew management that you'll get out of this is you have 2 student pilots. They both need to do their night cross country. Okay, 100 miles. So you get a student up front and you have the navigator in the back. The navigator has planned this flight and the person up front has their goggles on. Okay, so they're getting instrument time and they're getting their night cross country in, their night cross country in, and the guy in the back is telling them to fly heading 320. And they have to learn how to talk to each other and like not be bitchy on when you see 320 is not working. Well, would you turn to a 325? So to us, that's really like easy, but it's so cool over the course of that hour and a half, see the crew management come in. And hey, could you tune in on COM2, this airport, to click on the lights so we have our point? Like, it is the coolest thing to see that relationship, that crew relationship build on the way there. You get to the airport and you get out for one of the first times. You go in an FBO for the first time. You learn how to push the button in, like, hey, this is where the crew car keys are. You use the bathroom. It's usually oftentimes someplace to sleep. You get back in and you fly back, switching seats. So like, you just save them hood time. You got a really good experience out of it. Everybody that I've done it with, they are friends years later because like they built this commodity of this experience that they had. It's really, really cool. So you should do that.
That's
really great. That is a brilliant idea.
Somebody told me that, like, hey, have you tried that? I'm like, yeah. So it happened to be like that first summer I was CFI and I had 2 people at the same time. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this every time. Give one of my students to another CFI to do it with one of theirs, or borrow a student too, because it only makes sense, right?
Is it time?
It's time, Maddie.
I think it may be time.
Are you ready?
Unpopular aviation opinion. Are you
Okay,
ready?
so this is gonna just rub Trevor the wrong way.
Oh, perfect. I'm so ready for this.
Yeah, and
Do
now that
it.
I've kind of met you guys a little bit, I was listening to last week's podcast, and I'm only like halfway through, but I was listening to like first solo stories, and you said you soloed at 5 or 6 hours. There was no way in hell that you should have soloed at 5 or 6 hours, unless did you grow up in a plane, like you knew how to 100% fly, but you just didn't have the endorsement.
So maybe I should have prefaced that. When I was going through my private pilot training, it was 5 or 6 hours. I did have time because I flew up with a couple of CFIs. I worked as a dispatcher at Thunderbird Aviation for a few years.
Right.
So when we're going, ferrying airplanes, things like that, I flew.
Sure. Okay. Then that helps. But so then I'm just gonna throw out like a more generic. Sorry, I didn't mean to attack you, Trevor.
No.
I apologize. But like this generic assumption that when people walk in the door, they're going to solo in 10 hours, which is not realistic at all. So I guess I wanted to throw out the unpopular opinion or belief that you're going to get your private in 40 hours and you're going to solo in 10 hours, because unless you have a Trevor-like experience, or like your dad had a plane growing up, so you've been there the entire time, that is not reality at all.
Absolutely not.
Which is really
Let's solo at
unpopular because
50.
people want to spend like $9,000 and come scrolling in at 40 hours, and it's not going to happen,
I've known one person that did it, but he micromanaged it like crazy. He knew just how to study and how to, do what he could to maximize his time in the aircraft and everything. Fortunately, then there was me who did mine in 80 hours and spent like 3 times as much money because I didn't know how to do that. And I was not prepared for that, but it is a very unrealistic standard.
When I got my certificate back in 93, it was still 40 hours, but you needed 2 hours less instrument time, and you needed less night time, and this, that, and the other thing. So it's like they added these requirements in, but still made it 40 hours. But it's for the Trevors and the people that grew up in their dad's airplane that can do it in 40, right? Like it's fine if you're ready, you're ready, but the average bear is not going to be, so.
I mean, even for myself, I did some flying with Civil Air Patrol in like the mission observer scanner seat. So you're not the pilot, but you're running radios and things like that, working with maps. And even with that, I was still almost 60 hours. To get my commercial or my private certificate. So.
Right. And somehow like that is like when you Google, people are like, realistically, you're going to do it more like 50 or 60, or national average is 54. I think it is now. Yet people walk in that door like, I'm going to do it in 40. And you're like, no, you're not. Believe me, add $6,000 more to your budget. Right. So that's sad. Yeah. Before we end, can I put in a plug?
That's actually what I was just going to ask you. I knew that you wanted to plug something. So I want to give you that opportunity.
I'm very involved with the local Women in Aviation chapter. Stars of the North is what our chapter is. The plug I wanted to put in was September 24th is Girls in Aviation Day. I will probably reach out to you again in August. But we run the biggest in the world, which we're very, very proud of. Last year, end of COVID, we got 1,600 people to show. It's legit. We're considering capping at 2,000 just because we don't have enough volunteers. We need help, and that they don't need to be pilots. We need people checking people in, doing parking. Like I co-direct the educational activities so that in general, we do a marketing thing, but pilots, aviators, dispatchers, that kind of stuff can be very advantageous. And we do want people to come as well. If you haven't heard about it, we do education. big military presence. The military sims get trucked in special for it, which is pretty unique in the country to have access to that. Flight schools, NOAA comes in, DNR, all sorts of cool stuff are set up to talk about different careers and or just like flying for fun. We get a CRJ 900, the NOAA Beaver comes in, 2 female pilots come in and talk about how cool it is, Blackhawks. Anyway, would love anybody to attend. Boys are welcome as well. We do not discriminate. And it's just really to get kids more involved in aviation, which I think we were all talking about here is like, we really do need to let kids know that there are these avenues. So anyway, we need help, volunteers, and as many little people that we can get there, ages 8 to 18, to help get engaged in aviation. We'd love to see you there.
So thank you again so much for coming on. We really appreciate having you.
You bet. Okay, good night, guys. Good meeting you.
Wish you the best of luck with your event coming up.
Thank you.
That was fun. That went way longer than I thought it would, but it was really fun.
Yeah, it was me mostly talking.
It
Sorry,
was
guys.
you mostly talking. Just say it.
No, remember I just cut
Okay.
out 98% of what Trevor says is what we talked about, right? That was a
Yeah.
joke. It's
Yeah.
not that much. That's an exaggerated number.
Yeah, she was
No,
really
it's
cool.
not. No, it's
Is this
not.
what we're fighting about now?
Yes.
They got to fight about something. Wow, what a great episode.
Wow. It was so great to talk to Amber.
Wow. Tell me about it.
Oh man, I feel like wow. It's like I come over. It's like I don't know what to expect. I got to be honest.
No, it was actually a really good episode. Being CFI of the year, that's kind of a big deal. And
Yeah,
as
kind of a
humble-
big deal.
And as humble as she was, I mean, earmarks of a good CFI, well deserved. Wow.
Wow.
Wow,
We definitely need more CFIs like her.
we do.
So what are we going to go on for the next episode?
In our next episode, all you sim pilots, get ready to rock your wings. We're going to talk to the guys from SimVenture about their event coming up next month in advance of the Oshkosh AirVenture. We talked a little bit about it in the event section, so we'll have Kevin from Pilot Edge to talk to us about SimVenture and how you can get involved.
Wow.
Wow. All right. So if you guys are interested in any of this merchandise or any future merchandise, please let us know. Contact us on any of our social medias or give us an email. Send us an email. Email us.
Definitely in a developmental stage, so we're looking to see what kind of interest exists before we start down a larger venture, see if maybe we want to do a pre-order thing and figure out how to do this the right way.
And talking about important things coming down the pike, why don't you guys get a hold of us when you have a major event like, say, first solo or you pass your check ride? We want to celebrate you guys. So get a hold of us, social media, email, you know how to do it.
Well, guys, it's been fun. But until next time,
See ya.
see ya.
See ya.
Wow.
That was really good.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, what a great podcast.
Wow.
Wow.
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35 today.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.
This episode of the Flying Midwest podcast brought to you by Owen Wilson and his
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think Trevor said something clever.
Really?
Trevor does not say anything clever.
You did though.
You guys can't hear the C-130 flying over.
No, we never can. I think it's all in your head.
Even the lights?
Yeah, it's all in your head. So, Maddie, Trevor, take it away. That sounded stupid.
Take it away.
Take it away, Penny. Please say you guys have seen that SpongeBob episode.
How much SpongeBob do you think I'm watching?
Oh, you have kids.
I'm a 40-year-old man. I don't watch SpongeBob. I mean, I'm aware of who lives in a pineapple under the sea, but
SpongeBob, that's
Those in our... No, that didn't sound very good.
you said 2 words.
I know.
It
Yes,
didn't sound
I did.
good.
And it sounded horrible.
I was muted.
That was a lovely face, Jim.
It was so funny.
I hear that a lot. I have a lovely face. He's got a face for radio, which is why I do podcasts and not YouTube videos.
We're a family podcast, Jim.
I've heard that somewhere.
Family friendly. Yeah, I heard that from you. You don't want to know.
Nope, I don't.
No, but you made it our business, so
You really
I'm gonna
did.
stick my nose in it.
As well as the B-24 That's going to make a lot more sense in a second.
It's milk, isn't it?
It's pina colada.
Pina colada. It sounds
that
like
what
a
you, Jim?
condition.
I said pina colada.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear the air conditioner blowing?
Once
No.
again, we can't hear most of the things you hear, I believe, because they're in your head.
I hate that you wasted my time, Trevor. That was the dumbest joke I've ever heard.
Recording in progress. Wow.
Wow.
Up next, the Sheboygan Gift Week, which is Girls something flight something.
Girls in flight training.
Thank you.
I'm terrible at intros. You know that, Jim.
I know, but I'm trying to help you build your confidence by
I don't have
practicing.
I don't have any confidence. You
That's-
kidding me?
So with the logo, we were feeling out the audience is not what I wanted to say.
Ew.
That's the alcohol too. So
No feeling the audience.
this isn't going in the podcast. I thought about going like a Flava Flav direction, but yeah,
I don't even know what that
boy,
is.
wouldn't have made sense. You don't know who Flavor? Trevor, we have got to get you out from under the rock.
I love my rock.
Do you have air conditioning?
Yes. Can you hear my air conditioning?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
You
Yes,
sweated
I
out
don't
for
hear it.
nothing.
So what I hear you say is that I could have done this entire podcast not sweating my ass off.
Yes.
No one told you to do that. How much SpongeBob do you think I'm watching?